our course itself. So this course is business policy and strategy capstone. So it's assuming that you are very familiar with whatever you've studied in the bachelor's program. You have taken courses in finance, marketing, you've taken courses in HR, MIST, you've taken courses in economics, accounting, you've done everything, international business, knowledge management, human resource management. You've literally covered every you know area of management. So the capstone course is assuming that you bring to this class all that knowledge. So, and of course, it also discusses plenty of things that have an intersection with many of these courses. So what is strategy and why is it important? This is the first chapter. And by the way, this is also connected with your first weekly reflective report. On your canvas, the first report that is done individually is also called the weekly reflective report. And the weekly reflective report, the first one, which is due, I mean, I have not put a due date anytime soon, but you might want to make sure that you will do it after this class is over, because today I'm discussing the first chapter. And this is exactly what is the first weekly reflective report. The question is, what is strategy and why is it important? So definitely what you're taking away from today's class is useful for writing that first weekly reflective report. And there are 10 points for it. You take it away for free. And all that you need to do is write me a 2-page summary of that question. What is strategy and why is it important, with some examples, and make sure you put some 2 or 3 references. I don't need a bunch of references. Just put a couple or good references from a journal article or something. It just shows that you took some effort to read extra about it, not just what you listened to the professor in the class, but you went, took pains to read something and also put your thoughts, put a corporate example. All
That's
this, many corporate examples in today's class. You can put the same ones if you want to, but you can also use other examples. Jessica, you had a question?
yes. If it's not a journal, can it be just a credible like source, like for example, a credible business website?
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, if you have to, you can please do that. But what I will also suggest, Jessica, is I I don't know how far. I think you also published research, right, with professors. So you appreciate how important literature review is. So for you, it shouldn't be a difficult thing at all. That's my presumption. So yeah,
Okay.
if you feel that something is more relevant from Harvard Business Review or some other authentic source, that is also okay. But I don't see any problem either ways for you, right? Okay, let's go back and look at the learning objectives for today. It's understand why every company needs a sound strategy, and to make sure that they compete and they can do really good, they can sustain their competitive advantage, and of course they want to make above average profits. And the second objective is to see and compare and contrast the 4 different kinds of strategic approaches that companies can follow to make sure that they stay ahead of competition and also sustain their competitive advantage. The third objective is to see over a period of time, because of changing circumstances, how do companies adjust their strategy, refine their strategy. There are proactive elements, there are reactive elements, and how do they fine tune their strategy so that they make their strategy work for them. You might start off with a strategy to achieve something for your company, but because things change very quickly in the business world, you want to make sure that you go back to the drawing table, look at if what elements of your strategy are really working. What do you think you need to change? What elements might be discarded completely, and so that your strategy stays on target. Then learn why it is important for a company to have a business model. See, one thing is to have a great strategy, but if you don't know how to convert that into creating value for customers, and how do you translate your actions into creating that value? And if you're not sure how to run your daily business operations in ways that you can control costs, you want to generate sustained demand for your product or service that you're offering, and eventually you want to make a profit. That means you cover your costs because the value created is so good. You're generating the demand and sales, and you cover all your costs. and you're making something extra, that is what we call as profits. So one thing is to have a great strategy in place. Another thing, a bigger challenge is to convert that strategy into a business model that really works for you. If you're not having that, then there's a problem in mobilizing action to put that strategy into practice. Strategy is a plan, it's an action plan, but a business model is something that talks about everyday activity. How do you actually convert those strategies or action plans into something that's tangible, whether it's a product or service, and how do you mobilize action towards achieving something that generates value for customers? I know I'm speaking a lot of strategy, jargon, but then as we progress and discuss everything in this chapter, things will fall in place and they'll become much obvious for you. Then, of course, at the end of this chapter, we want to see if our strategy is a good strategy for us, whether it's working for us as a company. So there are three tests that you can put every strategy across and see if the strategy is a winning strategy or if it's a strategy that needs, much more changes. So these are the learning objectives for today's class. I'll try and go a little fast because, you know, unless you stop me and ask me questions, because I know attention spans are very short. And if I talk too much and for too long, I would have lost you. So it'll be best if you can speak in the class. That'll be perfect. And because you guys have so much knowledge about companies that you really adore, you like, and you get excited about. So please feel free to talk about companies that inspire you, that gets you excited, or companies that you think you should pursue a career in. So please talk. Yeah. What do we mean by strategy? This is the first part of the weekly reflective report as well. So uh, even before we get there and define what a strategy is, we want to see where all this conversation begins. Every company at some point of time, they look at where are we right now? How are we doing? And when we compare our current position, we're also thinking about the business environment that we're operating in. How has competition changed? How has technology changed? What kind of suppliers do we have? What are customer preferences? Are there changes in the general economy, monetary and fiscal policies? What are regulatory requirements right now? And the general economic conditions. Are we close to a recession, the business cycles, or the economic cycles? All these factors will play an important role in our assessment of our current situation. And then when we look inward, closer at the micro level, we want to define our current situation based on our financial position. And also, we want to see when we compare our company's market share, for example, with other competition, that actually tells us what our firm's current position is. And the company can also look inward and say, these are our strengths. This is something that we are unique. As a company, we have certain abilities, capabilities that nobody else has, or even if they have, we're better than them. So we look at our own strengths as a firm, and we look also, we have to make an assessment of our weaknesses to understand our present situation. So we're looking at financials, we look at how much of market share that we have, we make an assessment of our own strengths, and we also make an assessment of our weaknesses. This is internal. But when you talk about industry conditions, economic, policies and changes, political stability, social changes, technology changes, these are external assessment of the company's environment itself. So to answer the first question, what is our present situation? I think you need data and reports and feedback on all these elements that I've just touched upon. So, and then the second important question, okay, we know where we are. We assessed our current position. It's important that we also understand where do we want to go from here. So that is where we talk about a vision. We look at where we are and we create a vision for, say, 2030. Today is 2021. Let's make a vision for 2031 or maybe 2030. There are countries which make visions for 2050. So obviously, I think each one of us, you, me, all of us, need to have certain short-term visions and some long-term vision. So I'll give you a little extra bit of homework. When you have time, I know you guys are very busy with taking, tons of courses and assignments, but when you have time, can you answer this question? Uh, what's your vision for the next 5 years? Where do you see yourself go? What's your vision for the next 10 years? Like, for example, Feya, I might ask you, Feya, what's your vision for the next 5 years? What's your vision for the next 10 years? Are you here, Feya? And I'm doing
Yes.
cold calling. So you assess your strengths, assess your, areas where you could improve, assess, what kind of skill sets that the companies are looking for. It could be technical skills, it could be management skills, soft skills, analytical skills, anything it could be. Assess what are the skills that are highest in demand. Look at what skills you already have and tell me, you don't have to be accurate. I'm not going to hold you accountable. But ask yourself this question: where do you want to see yourself go in the next 5 years? Where do you want to see yourself go in the next 10 years? Not necessarily we'll achieve all of that, but unless we have a vision, we do not have a sense of direction. You got it? So unless you
Um,
dream something, a vision is a dream. And the more vivid your dream is, the more clear your dream is, you will start working towards achieving that dream. So please, the word vision is a very, very, very important thing at an individual level, at an organizational level. So, assess your current situation as a company, look at your own strengths and weaknesses, look at the external environment and say, where are the opportunities? Where are the threats from other competitors? You just did a SWOT analysis. Then the next thing is create a vision for the next 5 years, next 10 years, maybe next 15 years if it's an organization. And the most important question comes now: how are we going to get there? We decided and defined our vision. We know where we want to reach in 5 years. We know where we want to be as a company in 10 years. And how do we get there? That how is strategy. That how is the action plan. Now, can I ask you if anybody can volunteer to say, what is that you want to do in the next 5 years? Do you have, there's no perfect answer. Even if you ask me, I might not give you an answer that easily. It's a tough question. So can somebody volunteer to say, this is what I want to do in 5 years' time? This is where I want to be in 5 years. Anybody? You can just take a,
I don't mind
thought of-
going.
yeah, please tell.
So in the next 5 years, I know like once I graduate in this semester, I'm hoping to get into law school here in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Once I graduate with that, of course, I'll still be working my job here that I have, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, I can also become either a lawyer for the company that I currently work at, or
Mm-hmm.
I could become a foreign legal consultant for a different firm.
That's cool. I'm so happy to hear that actually, and thank you for sharing that bit of information. And I
Yeah.
just forgot that you were the person who were saying you actually live in Korea right now. Thank you for
Yeah.
reminding me that as well. And just in case you want to be in touch with another law professor who is a good buddy of mine, he works with the Zayed University in Abu Dhabi. If you want to be in touch with him, I can get you connected to him.
Oh, thank you so much.
And the reason that I say that is because he's a very good law professor. And based on what he taught in class, I just feel so proud to talk about him because I had a student of mine who was doing a marketing job. And for some strange reason, the legal advisor for this company was on a short vacation or a leave of absence or something like that. And they needed to draft a particular contract the next day. It was urgent. And the student of my colleague, I mean, the law professor, one of the student actually volunteered to help this company draft a particular legal document or contractual agreement. And they really, admired the way he did it because he was taking everything that he took in the law classes. He drafted the English version and he created an Arabic translation because that's mandatory in the UAE. And then they were so impressed, they created a position for him that also takes care of legal issues in the company. Can you believe that?
That's really
So
cool.
yeah, so you never know, So what you take in class sometimes might come suddenly handy. You might think this is a lot of theory that the professor is talking, might not be really useful for me currently. You'll get into that position where it might become useful for you. So my take on all the classes that you take, please take it seriously because you never know where it might help. Anyway, so that how, when you're answering that question called how, you're actually basically answering an action plan to reach that vision, to achieve that vision. Wherever we want to see ourselves reach, if Brianna was talking about where she wants to go, now tell me the action plan. And of course, you can do that action plan for yourself. What will you do today? What will you do every day? What will you do every month? Where would you invest your time and resources so that you reach that? That's your strategy. It could be short-term strategy, long-term strategy. Here you go. So what is strategy all about? Basically, strategy is about how. How to do better than your competitors, your rivals. How do you respond to these economic cycles? Even how do you respond to the pandemic situation right now? And the market conditions and growth opportunities. How do you respond? Are you slow? Are you quick enough? Or are you a leader there? Would you be a first follower, or do you extremely slow that you miss the bus? How to manage functional pieces of the business, because you do so many activities as a company and the companies grow larger. And how do you make everything work in ways that are collaborative, where there's no redundancy, there's no unnecessary repetition of what you're supposed to be doing? How do you utilize your resources optimally? And these are all the hows which tell you the strategies of managing functions, strategies of attracting customers, strategies for retaining customers, strategies to improve your financial performance, strategies to grab market share from your competition, strategies to continue to innovate. So there are plenty of how do you collaborate with somebody? Do you want to acquire another company? Do you want to enter into a strategic alliance? What what not? You have so many, all these are strategies. You could have a pricing strategy. You could have a marketing strategy. You could have a financial strategy. So strategies in each function is possible. Each business of yours, suppose you take, for example, Samsung. Brianna, you can tell me, Samsung has hospitals in Korea, right?
Yeah, they do. I actually go to Samsung Hospital for things.
See, I'm so happy. I'm having somebody in Korea to tell me this is true, professor. Otherwise, people in this class might think, what the hell is he talking? He's talking about Samsung Hospital? Are you nuts? Samsung is a mobile manufacturing company, television manufacturing company. Samsung has hospitals. Because I had some students from Abu Dhabi go there, and then they told me it's just incredibly nicely managed. Do you have the same feeling?
In the hospital, of course. So I actually went there for a procedure, and the staff there, oh man, it's like really, really modernized. They're like Korean hospitals. So I go to Samsung Hospital, and I also go to Asan Medical Center, which is located in Songpa. And I noticed the thing about Korean hospitals is just is very modern, very high tech. The staff is very, very knowledgeable. Like I think I don't want to say this, but like I think it's genuinely better than the service that we get back in New York.
Of course, and then I come from Abu Dhabi. I can tell you the hospitals there in Abu Dhabi are extremely, high tech, way better. The medical insurance, the coverage is way better than in the United States. So I'm happy, I have. Otherwise, imagine if I kept talking about Abu Dhabi, they'll say, "What the hell, Professor? You talk too much about Abu Dhabi." Now we'll include Korea in this picture. So the reason I say that is about how many businesses Samsung has. Each business can have its own strategy. And just to let you know, Samsung has its own construction business. Samsung is hugely invested into construction. They're busy, being partnering, constructing and doing nuclear power plants in the UAE. So we would never imagine that, right? So the reason why I bring all these discussions is each business can have its own strategy. Each business has different functions like finance, marketing, HR, production. Each function can have their own strategies to achieve those goals. Each team can have their strategy because each team has goals. So that how do we get there? We want to do something, we want to achieve something, we want profits, we want sales, we want revenues, we want to innovate and create new products, but how? What's the action plan? Say New York Tech wants more students, but how? School of Management wants to recruit more students, but how? What are short-term strategies? What are long-term strategies? So the how is such an important thing. Strategy is the key. By the way, strategy. The word strategy has come from war. It comes from the military operations across the globe. Strategy is not a pure management term. We just take terms from everywhere, including warfare and the military. How do you win a war? Not just because you have the best ammunition, but you have ways to outsmart your opponent. You got to utilize and mobilize and deploy resources in a smart way that you can win the battle in effective ways. You don't want to lose people. You don't want to waste your ammunition. You don't want to, waste your resources, but you still want to win the battle. That's basically strategy. Anyway, so that is applicable in the business world. It's also applicable in the war field, in the battlefield. So why do we have strategies? Now, firm has strategies to improve financial performance. I spoke about it. We need a strategy to keep our position. Suppose if the company's Apple is a leader, for example, in which one, Apple or Samsung? Who is the leader in mobile phone industry? Brianna, any chance you know that? Or Jessica or Faya?
I'm sorry, what's the question one more time?
Which company is on the top in market share? Is it Samsung, Apple, or
Uh,
is it Huawei?
uh, Huawei is China. Here in Korea, I think it's a tie between Samsung and LG.
Now I want the global market share.
Oh,
So you can check as I'm asking that question. These keep changing over a period of time. So I think Xiaomi is a close third or four in that list. Xiaomi is doing really great in Asia. That's what is my understanding. And Huawei is doing great in Europe and in China and in Asia. And of course, they have this embargo in the US. Otherwise, they would have been number one. They were close towards, toppling Samsung and Apple from the top position.
wait,
So
a quick
any,
Google search. It says Samsung.
it says Samsung. Yeah, they're always going back and forth. So that's what it is to strengthen your competitive position, stay ahead of competition. And if you look at strategies that Samsung or Xiaomi or Huawei are, evolving with, for example, Huawei, they created their own operating system called Harmony because of the problems that they have had with the U.S. government. They created their own, operating system, and I think they're doing great still. They're pushing their products in Europe. They're pushing their products in 5G industry. So there's plenty of innovation happening with a company like Huawei. And if you talk about their processors, Huawei has their own processors. They use Kirin processors in their mobile phones, and they even manufacture their own micro SD and memory cards. So data storage devices, they manufacture their own devices. And because I'm speaking about Huawei, they have partnerships with Leica. Leica is a German camera manufacturing, sensor manufacturing company. So they partner with Leica for their, camera module on their mobile phones. And Leica is a German company. So you have plenty of collaboration, strategic alliance to keep your position. Companies are smart. They're figuring out ways. If US government doesn't allow Huawei phones to be sold in the US, and they don't give Google services and Android services to Huawei, they created their own operating system. They have great devices. They have partnerships with Leica to give the best camera performance. Even if you go to DxO Mark, which rates all the mobile phones currently out in the market space. They rate where Apple 12, Max, their camera performance is, Samsung, whatever S21 performance is. I think Huawei takes the cake. They're top in terms of camera performance because of their collaboration with Leica. So the reason I'm talking of all these examples is because my first weekly reflective report is What is strategy? Why is it important? Substantiate with examples. So what does Huawei do to keep its position? Develop its own operating system, partner with Leica, and give great camera performance. Manufacture their own processor called Kirin processor, so that they don't have to depend on Exynos from which is manufactured by Samsung, or they don't have to depend on Qualcomm, which is another American firm which produces processors. So they can do their own processor. So they're making sure they will keep up the competition. They want to keep that position to gain sustainable competitive advantage over its market rivals. And Huawei is not stopped there. They're pushing hard in European markets. They're pushing hard in India and Asian markets. And in China, they're already doing great. And they're into 5G. So obviously they're into several things that you know tries to keep their competitive advantage over rivals. And the next thing, why strategy? You want to be distinctive. You want to be unique. And unless you are unique, why would customers come back to you and buy your products? Unless you're giving something extra special, unless you give value addition to your customers, why would they come back again and again and buy your product? Like they will, like you guys buy all Apple products, right? Your generation is everybody is hooked onto Apple, unlike me. I tried using Apple, the 12 Pro Max. I just could use it for 2 minutes. I gave it off to my wife. It was too much. Like authenticate here, give the Apple ID here, and do this here, do that. It's too much for me. I can't remember passwords. I'm poor at it. And Apple asks a password and authentication every 5 minutes. What am I doing? I need to focus on something else. I can't remember my passwords. If I have to get into my Insta, authenticate. If I have to download an application, authenticate. Come on, might be very secure, but this is too much for my generation, at least me. So I just gave up on Apple. I went back to Samsung and I'm happy using an Android device. The reason I'm saying that is Apple must be very distinctive. Otherwise, why would you all use Apple products? They're really good, seamless performance, great hardware, extremely easy interface. It's very, very distinctive. And the styling, the look of it, the design factor, and I don't know, you guys should talk more about Apple because I'm not an Apple fanboy. So these distinctive advantages keep Apple ahead, and I think Apple is catching up. They're working on a foldable device because they understand companies like Huawei have already done it, Samsung has already done it. I think LG is coming out with a rollable device. I'm sure is working on a rollable, stretchable device. You can stretch it into a tablet and stretch it back or fold it back into a smaller device. So Apple is going to, they're working on it. And perhaps Apple will come out a little late, like the way they do, but they come out with a very polished product without any problems in quality. There is no recall required, like, what happened with Samsung's first iteration of their foldable device. So there are plenty of things that give you a competitive, distinctive advantage. I'm not in an area where I can communicate as in answer your questions if I just wanted to let you know. Sandhya, it's okay, but if you wanted to say something, you can always say it in the chat, okay? Yeah, so that distinctive advantage makes competition difficult for rivals. You want to make sure you give consistent performance, high quality, and maybe including encryption and safety and security. I've heard people say Apple is really difficult to, uh, break into and steal information. It's very encrypted. The security services are great and stuff like that. Is that true? Would you guys
That's what
agree?
I heard. That's what
Feels
I heard
Mhm.
personally. So I guess it's true if people are, I
Yeah,
don't know.
we'll take your word. You know Apple better, and I'm sure it must be true. Otherwise, why would so many people use Apple? So all these things make it very distinctive, and others cannot replicate that. Apple Pay, for example, the Apple credit card, Apple has its own ecosystem, right? From iPad to MacBook, and then Apple Television, and then the App Store itself on Apple is so great. The iOS is great, and it's an entire ecosystem. So once you're invested into an ecosystem, You don't want other, going getting into Android or getting into Microsoft or the Windows and whatever. You don't want to do that. Yeah, but for me, I'm like that. I'm onto Android. I'm onto general Windows, Microsoft kind of thing. So I'm pretty old fashioned in that sense. Let's go back here. And strategy and competitors. Now again, strategy is all about competing and doing things in a way that make you distinct. You have to do it better, and doing what others cannot do, and which also get you the kind of recognition and customer awareness. If you were the first company to do it, I think you leave a lasting impression, but you got to do it really well. You don't want to create a product or service which has issues, which has quality issues or performance issues or durability issues. So when you want to create a very new product, some kind of innovation which is disruptive, you got to do it really well in terms of quality, performance, durability, value for money. So doing what we should be doing and should not do, stuff that will get you in trouble or lets you lose your competitive advantage. So strategy is all about keeping your position there in comparison to your competition. This is an important slide, I would think so, because what kind of areas would strategy make it relevant? Identifying your own company's strategy can happen with simple things like first one here, actions to gain sales and market share, with say lowering of prices based on lower costs. If you look at Samsung's pricing strategy over the last 1 year, they price their mobile phones, the flagship phones, extremely expensive. A folding Samsung phone costs close to $2,000. It's unique, it's innovative, but would you want to spend $2,000 on a phone? It's not a laptop. You cannot do serious assignments and work and research on it. You cannot, type in that easily for a long time on it. It's nice. It's a very novel, innovative idea, the folding phone, but is that really productive? Once you get past the form factor, the novel idea, once you get past that, you might not find the real use of it and you might have a problem. So, and then pricing it at $2,000, how many will buy it? Lenovo has their own folding computer. Have you seen that? You can just check Lenovo X1 Fold. I'm into gadgets big time, so I can give you a lot of examples. Lenovo X1 Fold. It's a folding tablet, which has got a nice, Bluetooth on computer charging Bluetooth keyboard if you want as an accessory, and you can just put it. It's like a book. When you fold it, it feels like a book, and it folds out. You can read it like a book. If you want to use the screen at the bottom as a keyboard, you could. You want to stretch it full across, it becomes a 13-inch screen. And then you could pull off the Bluetooth keyboard and start typing. So it's again $2,400, the base model, $3,300 at the advanced level model, Lenovo X1 Fold. So how do you gain sales? How do you gain market share? But at what price? Are customers willing to pay that high price? Actions to enter new product or geographic markets or exit existing ones. So if you want to get into, I'll tell you something strange. Xiaomi as a Chinese company, mobile manufacturing company, if you look at India's mobile phone market, Xiaomi is the leader. Xiaomi manufactures its mobile phones in India. And in India, Xiaomi is the leader, not Samsung, not Apple, not Huawei. It is Xiaomi. There you go. New market, they manufacture there, and they're having an advantage. They do not sell extremely expensive phones like Samsung and Apple. An Apple phone in India is like a fortune. There's so much of taxes on it. It's crazy. I'll tell you a joke. It's perhaps much easier for Indians to fly to Dubai, buy an Apple phone in Dubai, and fly back to India. and including the flight tickets back and forth to Dubai would still save you money buying that Apple phone. If you were to buy the same Apple phone in India, it'll cost you more. Can you believe it? Including the back and forth tickets to Dubai, flight tickets. Still, it would be cheaper to buy it in Dubai and it would be more expensive in India. How the hell is Apple going to sell in India with that kind of tax policy? It doesn't make sense. So what Xiaomi did, smart. They're saying, no, we don't want to export. We don't want to manufacture in China and sell to you guys because you're going to charge a huge tax. They were very smart. They came to India. They said, we want to open manufacturing. Yeah, what do you think? Well, give a lot of employment. So the Indian government is like, yeah, that sounds good. They spent huge manufacturing location they have in Delhi, massive manufacturing location. They manufacture in India with low cost labor, low cost resources, and they sell in the Indian market at a low price. And they grab the entire market space. It's good product, by the way. The quality is great. The performance is great. The camera functionality is great. It does everything what an Apple or a Samsung does. So new market, new strategy. You got it? Apple cannot. And now Apple is manufacturing in India, some of their phones. So, welcome to the party. India is different. So you cannot take India as being US. And that's why Trump went really hard on India. Like, why the hell you guys are imposing so much of taxes on American products? And then he took the fight to China as well. The whole war on tariffs and taxes. It includes India as well. Yeah, but this is politics and macroeconomic variables having an impact on companies. That's why understanding the environment is equally important. As much as you want to understand your own company's strengths and weaknesses, you got to understand how political, decisions, economic decisions, and policies will affect all companies. So the next one, actions to capture emerging market opportunities, defend against external threats. Again, Brazil, Russia, the BRICS, South Africa, India, China. These are all strong markets. If you can sell there, you're making tons of money because they're so popular. Indonesia, for example, hugely populated country. Malaysia, a lot of money. Middle East, a lot of money. Great opportunities to sell there. Even if you're selling a premium product, it'll really sell well because they have the money there. So when you're getting into emerging, you can't simply say, I'll focus only on European Union, I'll focus only on NAFTA, America, Canada, and Mexico. No, it's not just focusing on, those extremely developed countries. The emerging market spaces, there's so many out there. Say, for example, Nigeria, it's a hub for software engineers today. Outsourcing of many of the companies outsource their operations, back-end IT operations, information technology operations to Nigeria. Same is the case with Vietnam. I can show you my Samsung phone is manufactured in Vietnam. Korean company manufactured in Vietnam. So I have my Sony camera assembled in Thailand. It's a Japanese company assembling their unit in Thailand. Extremely high-tech product. So multiple locations. Where do you manufacture? Where do you sell? Maybe they're not selling as many phones in Vietnam. Sony doesn't sell as many cameras in Thailand, but they produce there because it's lower, cheaper to produce there. And then they export it globally. These are all strategies, actions to strengthen market standing and competitiveness by acquiring, merging with other companies. I can give you an example here. Say a few years ago, Kraft, Kraft, right? The confectionery company. It's an American company that manufactures all kinds of, desserts and chocolates and stuff like that. They acquired a British company called Cadbury's. So that's a clear case of an acquisition. Why do they do that? Because Cadbury's is a big brand. Cadbury's has their presence all across Asia, all across Europe. Now, Kraft is very strong in the US and certain markets. So Kraft, acquiring Cadbury's means greater presence, market presence, a larger customer base, more product lines, and the chance that you're diversifying the risk and you start making money in certain product lines. And you realize the synergies of both the companies coming together. A lot of knowledge and a lot of process efficiencies can be realized if you want to. I mean, I'm not saying every acquisition can be successful, but that's why they acquire other companies. Google, if you go and search in Google about Google's acquisitions, you'll be shocked. I can show you that. You know, it's worth taking a break from here, and I'll just show you Google's acquisitions. You will literally get a shocker seeing how many companies Google has acquired over the last many years. So we'll go Google search and about Google acquisitions. That's crazy, right? How much are we dependent on Google? You just can't imagine. And by the way, there's a parallel search engine that might come up generated from China, right? Internet might be split into two, if you know that. So we go with list of mergers and acquisitions by Alphabet. Alphabet is the parent company of Google. And we go here. Look, these are the companies that have been acquired since 2001. Okay, let's go. And then they also say which country they belong to. Australia, Brazil, 2005, Canada they acquired, Germany they acquired. These are all companies acquired by Google. Australia, Germany, Switzerland, Sweden.
I didn't know YouTube was a part of Google.
My dear, Google is so big. It's like literally in your phone, in your laptop, everywhere. It's just major part of your life without we realizing that.
That's crazy.
I know. So Ireland, Israel, Canada, again, Greece. I'll tell you an interesting little thing once we just scan through. These are the acquisitions. Ukraine, France. I'm just picking up new names. Otherwise, UK is there already. Finland. They don't seem to leave any. Portugal, right? They don't leave any area. Singapore.
I saw Ireland too.
India, finally. Taiwan, Belarus. 241. January 14th was their latest acquisition. Maybe they acquired something from 14th till now. 15 days is a lot of time for Google. They have the money, they have the ability to scale something, they have the ability to integrate those things into their ecosystem. That's how powerful Google is. Now, the reason why I'm sharing that with you guys is, suppose, let's assume you bunch of people, smart people in this class, come together, create something that's really valuable. Not for me, not in my assessment, in Google's lens. If you get under Google's radar, and if they say, wow, this product or this service or this application is really interesting, you're very small because you're a startup company, you're only working at your level in your own region, and you have very few customers right now, but this is a great product, this is a great service, they'll buy you out. They'll pay 1,000 times more than you have actually invested in, or they'll pay you 1,000 times more than what your current market value is, if they see value, because you fit into the Google ecosystem. Do you get it? So guys, maybe your current value is 10 million as a company. If Google gets interested, you're suddenly 300 million. Okay. And when they acquire you, the best part of Google, I'll tell you something, they don't simply acquire the product or an application or technology. They acquire the smart people who did this. They don't want to let you go because you did this. You're smart people. We know already. So they acquire the human capital. They acquire this intellectual capital. That is their resident in you guys. If you can do this without any, specialized resource at your disposal, then Google has all the resources. So smart people can do a million things. They were just doing a few things before. Now they can do many things because you have Google support. You're part of the Google family. So that's about acquisitions. Strengthen competitiveness by alliance. I just spoke about Huawei, Chinese company, having an alliance with Leica, German company. Leica is like the Rolls-Royce of cameras. Just in case you don't know Leica as a brand, Leica is known as the Rolls-Royce of cameras. It doesn't have to be taking the most high megapixel pictures and stuff. Just having a Leica camera on your neck, hanging on your neck, it's like an ornament. It's like a fashion accessory. You got me? It's called the Red Dot. There is a forum called the Red Dot Forum. The Leica Red Dot is very famous. So Huawei went straight to Germany. We want the best in the camera business to be partners with us. That's strategic alliance. One powerful brand wants to combine with a German engineering, high quality, high value brand, and combine and say, we're the best in mobile technology in the camera industry. Come on, we give you the best. Why would people not want to buy? Anybody who knows Leica and anybody who has used, I still have a Huawei phone at home. It's just incredibly amazing, just to let you know. So, I belong to an older generation, but I'm all into technology, like crazy into technology. I love gadgets and I'm seeing what companies are doing. I want to explore and keep trying new stuff. Sometimes I end up taking the wrong decisions. That's a different story. Then you have strategies that you're investing in research and development. You're investing in innovation. I don't know if you know a company called Fujifilm. Have you heard of Fujifilm? They
Mhm.
manufacture cameras, right? Now, Fujifilm, for example, are into making COVID vaccine. It's a Japanese company that originally manufactures cameras and lenses. Can you imagine they're into research, trying to make COVID vaccine? And you know who is supporting their research? The American government. And their stock prices went up, not because of their camera business, but because the American government is invested into their COVID research. Their stock market shares went up. So I think that's amazing strategy, right? You're not investing in actually selling the product, but you're investing in research, the right research. COVID is a massive problem, and they're researching. And then they're nice with the American government. They could convince them. The American government is funding them. And what happens to their shares? They go up. Look at that. Not because of sales, but because of research. So sometimes strategy in the right places can get your share value going up. Strange, right? So I'm giving you all kinds of examples so that you understand. Yeah, you can think outside the box in everything that you do. Guys, today knowledge is power. You don't need money. As long as you have the idea, there will be investors. But you need something smart, something that people want to use, something that can add value to their business, something that can add value to their daily life. Google will acquire you only if they find that you're adding value to your clients. If your clients are benefiting from using your application or service, that is when Google knows, okay, you're operating only in Ireland, but we know that this is useful. Everyone across the globe will use it. We want to acquire you. They'll come to the negotiating table and give you a great offer, which you cannot resist because it's Google's offer. You got that? That's the key. So research, smart ideas get you the money. So please don't think, oh, I don't have the money, so how do I start business? That's the conventional way. 10, 20, 30 years ago, who would have imagined Alibaba to become so big? When was the last time you heard a company become so big so fast? Like Toyota took, I don't know how many decades to become big. Samsung took forever to become so big and so successful. Apple took a long time to reach where it is right now. All General Motors, all these companies took a long time. They have a history. General Electric, all these big companies that have been successful in the past took a long time. How quickly Alibaba became so big and so successful. That's because today we can leverage technologies. And the connectivity that you can access customers across the globe. You can actually generate funds across the globe. You can access human capital across the globe. Everything is much faster. And that's what we're talking about in the next strategy here, acquiring competitively important resources. And I know several Chinese companies that have acquired resources in Australia, have acquired resources in Africa. including mining of coal and mining of iron ore. They have acquired a lot of these raw material resources in Australia and in Africa. Steel manufacturing, coal manufacturing, or coal processing will all be controlled by Chinese companies because they have access to these resources in both African continent and as well as in Australia. That's smart thinking. They're not just bothered about manufacturing. They want also to have control over raw material, the supply chain. You got it? So acquisition of what? Important resources. Do you have access to the most smart people? Talent. That's the key, right? So get access to them. And the last one is here. Actions to strengthen the firm's bargaining position with suppliers, distributors, and others. If you have access to suppliers, if you have access to distribution, if I want to do business in, say, China, even if I have the best product, how do I reach every corner of China? China is a big country, huge population. That means there is potential. But how do I reach every small town and village and city in China? I need access to distributors. The smartest way to do business there is partner with a Chinese company. Can I build my own network there? Can I build my own distribution network there? It'll take forever and a lot of money, correct? So the smartest thing would be make some partnership with a Chinese company which has access to distribution. Would that make sense to you? So that's how I look. You have to look at ways of doing business. You can't simply think, okay, I'm going to stay here in New York. I'm going to stay in the tri-state. You got to see where whole world is an opportunity for you, especially if you're doing something that's driven on software, driven on the internet. You have, the whole world is a potential market space. Yeah, so those are basically the kind of company strategies that you might be interested in. I'm not saying you have to do as a company all of those. You might do a few of those, but all these are opportunities. And this is not an exhaustive list. So let's go off to the next one. Why do we do all of that? Because we want to meet customer needs. We want to keep innovating, or we want to keep retain our customers. If I do exactly what I was doing last year, and if I'm doing exactly the same thing as last 3 years, people are not going to be happy. There are complaints about Apple. Why is the notch still there? Even on the latest model of Apple, there is that notch, right? The notch is big on the Apple. Would you agree? And there are complaints. So you have to do something new so that you keep your customers. And you have to do it more efficiently. So the processor has to be faster. The memory should be greater. Multitasking should be possible. The screen should be even more vibrant. In the nighttime photography the results should be great. So you got to do things more effectively, more efficiently to keep your customers. And there is another thing that we might want to also talk about, lasting reasons. You want to sustain that. If you keep your customers for short term, it's no good. You want to retain them for the next 5 years, 10 years. I'll tell you, the most difficult part of sustaining a competitive advantage comes in the food industry. Suppose you're having a restaurant. The first year might be great. Everybody comes to your restaurant because it's new. Maybe the second year they would still come. By the third year, you are losing your advantage because there are so many other similar restaurants. Maybe next door, maybe across the street. It's easy to find competition coming in restaurant business. So you cannot keep your advantage for too long unless you focus on quality, you add some value added services, you increase the range of offering, you give some freebies, you do door delivery, you add to convenience, maybe you have points that are being accumulated, you give loyalty points. I don't know, there are hundreds of ways of thinking how to keep your customers to come back to you, especially if you're in food business, restaurant business. Sustaining advantage is very, very, very difficult because competitors can come up very easily. They can imitate, they can do better than you. We cannot become Apple quickly. We cannot become Samsung quickly. We cannot become Huawei very quickly. Well, we can create a restaurant very quickly. How does Starbucks keep their competitive advantage? In spite of the pandemic, how does McDonald's keep their competitive advantage? Strangely, I'll tell you something. Even when I was in Abu Dhabi, we used to wonder. All of the restaurants like Subway, other places, um, they sometimes do well, they sometimes don't do well. McDonald's, always full. KFC, always full. And I used to wonder how do they do this? And their food is not healthy, right? We all know this, but it's always full. So that's, I think, a key. They do things really well, more efficiently, more effectively, and they have a lot of customized offerings. In India, they use McDonald's has a variety which I've never seen anywhere. It's called Mac Maharaja. In the Middle East, they have something called as Mac Arabia. So Chinese students in this class can tell me if McDonald's has something unique in China, do they? Brianna, anything that McDonald's does separately and which is unique to Korea?
I know over here at the McDonald's, I think they have a bulgogi burger. So bulgogi is basically like a Korean styled marinated beef, and they put it in like a patty form. So it's like also the Burger King here, they have like a different options. So back home they don't have like fried shrimp and all that stuff, but they have it over here.
There you go. So that's what I'm saying. You need to sustain your advantage. You need to give something unique to your customers. You need to, actually acknowledge and appreciate that, culturally, locally, they have their own preferences and tastes. You need to do smart things if you want to sustain advantage. Otherwise, you'll be lost. They'll say, "Oh, it got boring. It's the same stuff. We don't like it anymore." But they're always experimenting. So to me, that's an important thing. Why strategy is you don't have one perfect strategy. You need to revisit your strategy, come back with a refined strategy, and keep improvising, innovating on your strategy. Okay, then you have these approaches. The strategic approaches can be, you know, four broad categories. One is the low cost provider. And the easiest example that I can think of is Walmart. If you look at Walmart and how they position themselves, they're saying the lowest prices every day. And that's true. If you visit Walmart, online or their physical stores, you have these bulk quantities. Even Costco would probably come here because they sell everything in bulk and they sell it at a very low cost in comparison. Would you agree? And the number of units that are available, literally everything that you want, you can buy it from Walmart. I think they have a better range than even Costco, for example. Walmart literally has everything from electronics, from household items, from grocery, from food stuff, everything is available. And then even clothes, everything is based on low cost provider. So if you want to buy something to save up money and you don't want to spend too much, and if you're buying in bulk, Walmart is a great place because they follow this strategy called as low cost provider. How do they do that? It's because they're selling in huge volumes. They're not selling few quantity. If they were selling very few from their stores, they cannot give such low cost prices. They cannot price their products so low, but they sell in millions, literally. Everything that you speak, they sell in large quantity, volumes. So that's a smart move. They buy in volume that they're getting a low price, and then they sell in high volumes. That means they can afford to price their products low as well in comparison. Then comes the second one is differentiation. You need to be unique. That's a strategy. Some innovation. I think these things that we discussed, like Apple or Samsung, they all fall here. They are unique and differentiated, and that is why all of us are Apple fanboys. We love Apple, right? So differentiation. It's unique in the hardware. It's unique in the software, in the operating system, in the applications, in the flexibility, whatever. Then you come to focus on market niche. Now, if you're creating a product or a service that is extremely unique, limited edition, but of course, extremely expensive as well, that's what we call as focused. Or if you're creating a unique product, which is extremely cheap, low priced, but only for a specific market, that's also focused. You can go focused on cost, very low cost, And you can go focused on extremely high quality, extremely unique and differentiated, very high price. That's also focused. You're getting me? But not everybody will buy that. And I can actually maybe share an example here for focused niche kind of strategy. Let me check that out. I wish I could have opened these sites for you before, but forgive me. Yeah, because these are things that I don't plan to talk. And as we discuss, I get these ideas. And instead of just talk, I'll be happy to show you some stuff at least so that you appreciate, okay, we understand now. And why does it take forever to, yeah, finally. Okay, let me show you this. When I say focused, you've seen an iPhone or Samsung phones like that, made from pure 24 karat gold. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
This is Golden Genie. They have operations in London and Dubai. This is 24 karat gold. It says here. You see it here? 24 karat gold Samsung S21 range. And the same is there in iPhone as well. Let's go here. This is niche. So any ideas, any one of you planning to buy this?
If I can afford it.
You know, phone is no longer just for making calls and taking pictures, but to show off, you know. Yeah, so this is your 24 gold iPhone, iPhone 12 Pro, Pro Max. They have platinum. They have 24 karat gold. Look at that. And this is croc. I think it's crocodile skin. I'm not a big fan of using animal products, but what to do? The world is like that. So this is a very unique kind of niche marketing or niche product. We're creating very unique products, and they're of course very expensive. Let's see, for example, let's go to Pro Max and see what's the price of this, just out of curiosity. And it's terribly slow. It takes its own sweet time. Yeah, it's about $4,000, whereas the actual Pro Max is about $1,200, right? And of course, if you choose a higher capacity, and then you can choose gold, platinum, or rose gold. Suppose let's choose platinum and see what happens. Yeah, it's still 4,150. And of course, then taxes will add up. So this is what is I was referring to as niche. That could be a strategy if you want to use, focusing on extremely premium product, high quality, handcrafted, limited edition kind of thing. Or you could go with extremely low cost. Can you believe that there is a car in India that is sold for $2,000? I mean, you would think, how can you have a car that can work on $2,000? But they have a car like that manufactured for Indian markets by an Indian company for as low as 2,000 or $2,500 max. It just works. It doesn't have any of the luxury things that you get used to see in Teslas and Toyota Lexus and stuff like that. But it just works. It's still a car. That's focused niche market. You can't sell it anywhere because it doesn't comply with several safety standards. But it works in India. Roads are narrow, parking spaces are very limited, and nano car sells in India. Best cost provider is when you're trying to make a trade-off between best features and you're trying to give all those best features for the best price possible. Lexus can fit here. focused or market niche, you might go with, say, Maserati or Ferrari, limited edition cars. I used to have students who used to come by Rolls Royce, in limited edition Rolls Royce. That would fit into market niche. Everything is handcrafted very carefully, chiseled out. That's a niche. But if you go with the best cost provider, Lexus fits in perfectly because you're trying to give upscale features for the best price possible. So these are the four broad strategic approaches that companies can follow. That's what is being described here. Low cost, efficiency. Walmart as an example, outcompeting rivals on differentiating features like Apple as an example, focusing on better serving a niche market. It could be based on efficiency or based on differentiation or effectiveness. I gave you two examples: nano car, very cheap car; efficiency, very focused to Indian market space; or golden genie that I just showed you, 24 karat gold Apple iPhones. That's a very niche market, extremely expensive. And then you have Lexus, which fits here. You're trying to give the best possible price for, unique product like Lexus. Lexus has almost all the upscale features, but it's not as expensive as a Ferrari or as expensive as a Rolls Royce. So gaining sustainable competitive advantage is the key. That means you need to develop some unique skills and abilities as a company. Expertise must be there. And other companies find it difficult to copy. If someone else wants to do what Rolls-Royce does, it'll take a while. If some other company wants to do what, say, Samsung or Apple do, it's going to take a while because that's not easy. If somebody wants to do what Huawei does, not easy. What Leica does, not easy again. So that's because you've developed certain capabilities that are, very difficult to copy, very difficult to match or do better than that. So that will give you an advantage for a longer time, not for a short time like restaurants, but for a longer period of time. So you need, I'll tell you one a funny incident. I had been to a place called Tiger Bubble Tea in Flushing. I don't know how many of you had an opportunity in Flushing, in New York, to go and have Tiger tea, Tiger Bubble Tea. There is always a line, snow or no snow, rain or no rain. If you want to buy this bubble tea in Flushing, it's called Tiger Bubble Tea. There is a huge line all the time, at least as long as 50 customers ahead of you. So me and my wife stood there in the line for about 20 minutes to go taste it. They have only one variety of bubble tea. They don't even have different flavors, but somehow it succeeds. Unique, right? And they sell. That's what actually gives you sustainable competitive advantage. You've got to have something that's unique that others cannot copy, and that you don't get the same taste as that Tiger tea. You have to have something like that. Why they sell, how they sell, they make tons of money, trust me, guys, with nothing in comparison. It's just a small, tiny shop in Flushing, exactly near the main station. That's where it is. I don't know how they're doing during the pandemic. Sure, they're still selling. That's what is my feeling. But if you happen to go to main station in Flushing, try it out. Yeah, but you have to stand and wait. Don't go out in cold weather. Go out on a nice, sunny, warm day. Okay. Why a firm strategy evolves over time? Again, we cannot have one best strategy that can work for you all the time because markets are changing, technologies are changing, competitors are doing something different, buyers' needs are changing, opportunities in different market spaces are changing, new ideas are coming in. So you cannot say, I created a strategy for my company 6 months ago, and that should work every time in the next 6 months. You might have to go back and change certain elements of the strategy. Certain things you plan for the future might work for you. Certain things have to change because competitions, they are doing something. Technologies have changed or market conditions have changed. So you have to go back and change something, which we call as reactive elements. There are proactive elements, which are deliberate and plan for the future. There are reactive elements of a strategy because you have to change it because competitors are doing something or technologies are changing or economy is changing or market opportunities have changed, conditions have changed. So there are proactive, reactive elements. Some part of the strategy you should not maybe continue Some elements of the strategy have to be abandoned. You need to discard those elements of the strategy, perhaps. So that's where we're getting proactive elements, which are deliberate. They're planned for the future. They're new initiatives. You're hoping that it'll work for you. Then there are emergent reactive elements of the strategy because competition, markets, conditions are changing. Do you get that? So, and that's why a strategy of a company is always changing. This is again in the picture form. These are proactive elements of a strategy. These are reactive elements of a strategy. Some of the strategy elements have to be discarded or abandoned. And then you have what we call as the realized strategy. We go back to what we were starting off at the beginning of the class. Once we have a strategy, it's important we convert that into a business model. What's a business model? How do you make these beautiful action plans generate value for the customers? That's the key. If all our strategies do not generate value for our customers, our strategies are useless. Because unless, see, you're my customers, students are our customers, and School of Management or New York Tech needs to do everything. Our strategy should be towards creating value for you. Either we give you knowledge, we give you experience, we give you exposure, or we give you internship opportunity, or we get you job. Unless we create that value, we might not be able to sustain our advantage. So that's the key. And apart from that, apart from creating value, we want to make sure we generate enough revenue. Our sales must be strong. We generate adequate revenues so as to cover our costs. And we have extra left, which we call as profits. And these profits should be above average profits. Okay? That's what is a business model. So what are the things that we covered in a business model? We have to create a value. This is the most important thing. When somebody spends $1,000 to buy a phone or buy a laptop, do they feel that they've actually paid those $1,000? Are they getting the value from it? It could be performance, it could be quality, it could be processing speeds, it could be durability, it could be anything. When people buy a Tesla car, are they happy with the performance, the convenience that it brings, the navigation systems that, by the way, Google has actually developed unique maps for Tesla. You know this, right? Do you know that Google has unique maps for Tesla? Extremely different. They even show everything. It's all based on the charging station, the superchargers, where are they available? It's pretty interactive, and it's actually telling, okay, it's time to charge up, and you have a supercharging charger coming up. So it's very intuitive and interactive, and they're very customized to Tesla. So because they want to add value, Tesla wants to do everything to create extra value. More reasons why you should buy Tesla. And they've come up with their different models and variants of their car because they want to play with the pricing, make it more affordable, right? Because you have other German cars coming up with electric cars. You have Japanese companies coming up with electric cars. And you have Chinese, I believe, companies coming up with electric cars. If Tesla wants to keep their position, they need to create value. They need to make sure that they have variants of the car at a lower price. I know that Tesla has also a high-end truck. You're aware of that? An extremely high-end truck, expensive. And I had one student from Saudi in my previous class who wanted to buy that truck and ship it to Saudi. It's not available in Saudi, he said at that point of time. He was willing to buy it in the United States and then ship it all the way to Saudi. So they have different models of trucks and cars at different prices, but of course they're focused on longer battery life, greater mileage, and that means they're creating extra value. You don't have to charge it so frequently. You can travel longer distances with one charge, and plenty of other things that they're doing. Tesla as a company, again, very customized Google Maps for Tesla. They do plenty of those things. I have my cousin who has a Tesla, and they were gifted with a smaller Tesla for their daughter, the toy Tesla. Did you know that? And it actually works. They have this small little toy Tesla for their daughter in the basement, and every kid who walks into their home First, get into the basement to drive that toy Tesla. It's exactly a replica of the Tesla model that they have. And it's really good. It works really well. And it's again based on charging. So I just wanted to tell you how many unique things Tesla does. And Tesla is, again, they're into space technology, the SpaceX program, right? So the profit formula is this: create value, and the price, try and charge price which actually is competitive, better than your competitors. Don't make it extremely high priced. Keep a control on the costs, because unless you control the costs, and if you're charging a low price, you will not make substantial profits. So create value, that's important. Unique products, high-end features, but you have to control the cost to the point that you can charge something that is better than your competitors' pricing, and you still make profits. That's what is the business model. What companies do is exactly this. Why does Apple manufacture phones in China? Because they want to control the costs. Designed in California, assembled in China, it says that, right? That's precisely that. Apple wants to put all its research and innovation of their offices in California. Once they do that, they ship, I mean, all the manufacturing is done in China. Low cost, high quality, so that they make more profits. What do you think it would cost Apple for manufacturing each of their phones? Maybe 30% of what they charge. The cost of manufacturing an iPhone should be 30% of what they sell you. It's possible because they're controlling costs. And they've created a brand image and value. They can charge you that kind of price. And of course, you all perceive high value. That's why you're paying, ready to pay that price. So that's, again, what we spoke about, a business model, all very important elements. This is where you're converting your strategy into action. This is where you're converting your action plans into actual profits. Then figuring out if your strategy is a winning strategy or not. This is a simple slide which talks about the three tests. Once you have a strategy, to figure out if the strategy is a good strategy or not, you have three tests to do. One is called the strategic fit test, the competitive advantage test, and the performance test. I'll explain briefly these three. Strategic fit. When you look at the external environment, look at your own strengths, your own weaknesses as a company, and look at the opportunities and threats that you have. If your strategy is using your strengths, if your strategy uses your strengths and can let you overcome those weaknesses, if your strategy can leverage those opportunities in the market space and can keep the threat away from competition, then your strategy is passing through this first test called the strategic fit test. The second test is competitive advantage test. In any industry, you have competition. If your strategy is letting you keep you ahead of your competitors, if it helps you keep ahead of competition, then you're passing this test as well, competitive advantage test. And the last test is, does it get you to generate value for your customers? Does the strategy help you control your costs? Does your strategy help you generate revenue and profits? If the answer is yes, it's passing the third test called as the performance test. By the way, guys, when I give you exam questions for the midterm, I'm going to give you this possibly as one of the options as a question. So let's go back here. The fit test. So whatever strategy you're having, does it fit with the external and internal aspect? External is opportunities and threats. Internal is your strengths and weaknesses. Does your strategy use your strengths? Does it help your company utilize opportunities that are out there? Does your strategy keep the threats at bay? If the answer is yes, it passes that test. The advantage test, competitive advantage test, does your strategy help you achieve and keep that competitive advantage? Can you retain your customers? Can you continue to attract customers? If the answer is yes, your strategy is passing the second test. The third one, does your strategy help you create products and services that get you profits, generate revenues and sales? And can it get you better market share? If the answer is yes, your strategy is passing this test called the performance test. Now, again, it's a recap of all that we studied. So strategy is a prescription for doing business, for getting you ahead of competition, for keeping your customers happy and satisfied, and for attaining long-term market position or market share. And the road ahead strategy is about asking the right question, and what managers must do, what action plans should they implement, and how do we keep our market position. It's cutthroat competition out there. Unless you have a strategy, good strategy, and if you have a good business model, unless you have both of them, you're not going to succeed as a company. So strategy requires getting the right answers, and it's all about making the strategy and executing, implementing the strategy itself, and also how do we craft a strategy. And then that's what we're going to discuss in the future chapters. So that actually summarizes the first chapter. We're done with the first chapter. Any questions here?